Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Welcome to this segment of Coach Gurbani's A Segment a Day. The recitation of the day is stanza 26 of Jup Pauri, which follows. Amul gun, amul vapar, amul vapariye, amul pandar, amul ave, amul le jaye, amul paye, amul samaye, amul taram, amul diban, amul tul, amul parwan, amul baksis, amul nisan, amul karam, amul furman, amul आख्या ना जाए, आख आख रहे लिवलाए, आखें वेद पाठ पुराण, आखें पढ़े करें वख्यान, आखे बरमे, आखे इंद, आखें गोपी तै गोविंद, आखे ईसर, आखे सिद्ध, आखे केते कीते बुद्ध, आखे दानव, आखे देव, आखे सुरनर मुन जन सेव, केते आखे आखण पाहे, केते कह उठ उठ जाहे, एते कीते होर करे, ता आख न सकह कई के, जे वड पावै ते वड होए, नानक जाने साचा सोए, जे को आखे बोल बिगाड़, ता लिखिए सिर gawara gawar. Now, this passage, before we consider it, is another example of where the available standard translations and commentaries may have given us an interpretation that is perhaps too literal, and we've provided that in our own translation. One result of this is that the inner essence may probably escape us, and so there is a need, we feel, to examine not only traditional, conventional explanations in English as they're available to us, but then to also try and see past them, to build on them, and this is what we will try to do. So first, let's look at the generally received explanation. The first part of the stanza is an alliteration again around the word amul, meaning priceless. Most, if not all, prevalent translations and commentaries proceed to provide the literal meaning of the different terms that have been appended to the qualifying consonants of amul. So if you read it in this fashion, the stanza appears like a random listing that reads somewhat as follows. Priceless the virtues, priceless the trade, priceless the traders, priceless the storehouse, priceless are those who come to engage in an exchange of such virtues, and so on. And the latter part of the stanza, which echoes the word akhe, or to speak, goes on to list the scriptures, the Veds, the Purans, and numerous deities, Isar, Brahma, Ind, and says they are incapable of describing these virtues, try as they might. Now, one could reasonably argue that this alliteration, this consonance of the words, and this repetition in the passage could be a mystical outpouring. Indeed, but we also know that the Guru meant to instruct us. So the question would be, why would he just produce a random list like this? Now, if one were to just look at the way we've looked at these terms, you would get the sense that we are transgressing Guru Nanak's own method. I mean, he instructs us time and again not to take things literally. The focus is not outward, but the focus is inward. So if we simply pay attention to the qualifier amul, that would be a hint that the qualifications that follow cannot be compared to anything out there, but must symbolize internal qualities. And we know that a name stands for or signifies the inner essence of that thing. So if we were to read the same passage from this perspective, a more meaningful message emerges. And we find that the Guru's anaphoric use of the term amul is really an indication of inspired speech to say that words fail him in describing the value, the beauty of the mind's transformative process and the resultant quality of the mind that emerges. So amul gun, amul vapar, therefore speaks to the excellences of the mind that come about due to an internal alchemic process, which, if you remember, was described as Sone Mane in stanzas 8 through 15. So in essence, Amul Vapariye Amul Pandar means that the trader mind here, the trader mind that engages in this process is beyond compare and is a storehouse of priceless qualities. Amul ave, amul le jaye, amul pae, amla samaye becomes such a mind breaks away from ritualized practice and dogma, that is conditioning, to open itself to a priceless new rhythm of living that is rooted in love. Pae. Amul taram, amul diban, amul tul, amul parwan. The decisions and judgments that flow from such a mind are balanced and precise. Amul Bakshis, Amul Nisan. They are compassionate, characterized by discernment, rooted in hukam. And the second part of the message, which revolves around akhe, means to speak of. And it's speaking of such a mind. A mind that is engaged in this process speaks from the authority of its experience of truth, of Naam, and not from any particular ideology or dogma. Akhe Ved Part Puran, Akhe Pade Kare Vakhyan. It means simply that it speaks with the authority of these scriptures. This mind is creative and a natural leader of humanity. It's guided by Gurmat and an inner wisdom that is innate to all. As in Akhe Barme, Barme, symbolic of creation, creativity. Ind, powerful, leader. Gopi te Govind, Akhe Gopi te Govind, implies that such a mind is attuned to its inner self. Gopi is symbolic of the inner, the inner mind, the buddhi, so to speak, the intellect, which is now connected to its source. Akhe Isar, Akhe Siddh. This mind moves and manifests beauty. These are symbols for beauty, Isar. And Siddh, of course, is manifestation. It moves with discernment and discrimination between right and wrong. Akhe Kite Kite Buddh, Akhe Danav, Akhe Dev. And the passage continues in the end that this is an ongoing process. Kete akhe akhan paye, kete keh ke uth jaye, ete kite hor kare. It's an ongoing process, and such a mind is forever expanding, sada vigas, absorbing new knowledge and growing. And this process is beyond explaining. It is fluid. It's continually changing, known only to the Creator. Any attempt to describe it is foolish. Nanak jane sacha soye, je ko aakhe bol vigar ta likhiye sir gamara gawar. So in effect, the takeaway from all of this is that when we approach Gurbani, and especially Jup Bani, what we find is that conventional explanations have taken the approach of treating the stanzas within the Bani in isolation, just as a random assemblage of thoughts. And I think we need to somehow shift our perception and begin to understand that there is an inner narrative that is running from passage to passage. So we know that from stanza 21 onward, Guruji is emphasizing essentially, 1, that the truth is unsayable, 2, that the truth cannot be grasped by moving outward, and 3, that it is something that must happen inside of us. So with those thoughts, we leave you until next time. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.